This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Grant Hall joining us on halftime. Appreciate his time on Wednesdays here on ESPN Arkansas and hitthatline.com. Grant, what's up? It's some crazy Major League playoff games yesterday. It's a great way to get the division series started. And after the surprise of the road teams having such success in the first round, I guess a little bit back to the normal with the home teams winning 3 out of 4.
Yeah, some exciting finishes, especially that, what was it, 7-6, I guess, 8-7. The Houston Astros were down to 2 outs, down 2 runs, and got a 3-run homer, which had to be a jolt. You know, the Phillies come off beating the Cardinals in 2, and then they beat the Braves, and Harper went 3 for 3, so they got to be feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah. Do you believe in momentum in baseball?
Yeah,
I ask
so.
because Seattle seemed to have all kinds of momentum, and then they take this big lead into the 8th inning and they choke on it. So there really wasn't any momentum because it was a matter of their pitchers couldn't get guys out of the big moments. Phillies carried their momentum, though, into the Braves series, and I don't know if that was a surprise or not.
They used to say the momentum was as good as your next day's starting pitcher, and it's interesting. Verlander, who's been really good lately and all year, wasn't very good yesterday, but Houston won anyway, so I'm sure Dusty Baker's thrilled about that.
Starting pitching has become devalued in Major League Baseball, at least. So I think we need to change that theory that momentum is really not as good as the next day's starting pitcher. It's probably as good as your next day's second, third, fourth, fifth pitchers that the manager is planning to use. Doesn't that make more sense now?
Yeah, maybe so. Like, Kershaw is going for the Dodgers, and he's been good lately also. And, of course, they looked like they were going to win 10-0 last night. They hung on to win 5-3 if anybody stayed up for all of that when they beat San Diego. So I don't know, Phil. I mean, I don't know about you. When your team loses, your enthusiasm diminishes a little bit for the playoffs, but I'll try to get back into it.
I mean, I see where you're going there. Now, I mean, it's a little bit different for somebody like me because as a Pirates fan, I know they're not playing in October, so I can get fired up for games that matter, and obviously they do right now. But I see where you're going with this because, the Cardinals had this ill-fated trip to the first round, the wild card series, and I mean they had it right there in front of them in the first game. You hold on to that, you probably win the series. It's just in a best out of 3 when you choke on a 9th inning lead, and especially the way that went down, and an inability to hit really for that team. I guess you could kind of see it coming after the first game.
Yeah, I heard Chuck talking about it yesterday. It sounds like he hasn't quite been talked off the edge yet about how it came out, kind of lashing out this way and that. I think the Cardinals had a good season. They won 93 games. That 9th inning, it was. I think, managers are used to just stopping managing in the 9th inning when they have a good closer, and maybe Ollie wasn't quite prepared for what to do when Helsley, who was trying to get a 5-out save, only got 3 outs, and whether or not his finger affected me, who knows? But they kind of got discombobulated there, and I think they probably would have won Game 3. The metrics would have told you they would have had a great chance had they gotten there, but of course they didn't.
So I mean, it sounds like you just said the Cardinals had a good season. They had a good regular season. But I have the sense you could split things here because, all Cardinal fans and I think really baseball fans in general have this incredibly pleasant memory of Albert Pujols in the second half, and I don't think anybody will forget the way that he went out with such an incredible flourish, and that kind of does that stand apart from anything else that happened for St. Louis, or is this season viewed as a disappointment because of a 2-out in the first round?
I think what you said first, Phil, because I have a longtime friend who's in radio in St. Louis. He told me before the season he thought that Albert would probably be released hitting 173 in August. And so, when he was hitting 190-something, you're kind of wondering. And then he ends up with 24 home runs, gets to 700. he told one of the network guys said last week that Albert had said he thought he could play 3 more years, in which case, who knows, maybe he would be the all-time home run leader. But he also said that's why he announced early, because he didn't want to be tempted to come back, and he was committed to this being it. So the fact he got a hit his last time up was great, even though the ball caromed crazily and cost him a base. Yadier Molina got a hit his last time up, so that part was okay. But, about 5 minutes after the game, I asked when do the pitchers and catchers report for next year.
Well, the Arizona Fall League is in full swing, so you can watch some of those games. Yeah. You
by the way, Phil, I'm
Go
sorry to interrupt. Did you see Tony La Russa at the Dodgers game last night at age 77?
No, I did not see. I was unable to stay awake for the late game last night.
Well, I wondered why he was there, and like if he, in case it goes poorly for Dave Roberts in what looks like to be a march maybe to the whole thing. They've had such a great year. Is he? Does he want another front office job? I mean, I know he's had these health issues, but I was kind of surprised to see him there.
To me, I think for La Russa, I think the rest of his baseball career screams special assistant to the general manager somewhere, a ceremonial position more than anything else.
He can't give it up. He's too much of a baseball nerd like we are. Hey, Phil, also, I wanted to mention something about, they're playing football at Lavelle Edwards Stadium this week, and I got to meet Lavelle Edwards in 1974. They used to have this coaches golf tournament, and this particular year, it was Hot Springs Village. And Willie Nelson was there entertaining at night before anybody knew who he was. Darrell Royal brought him, But Lavelle, I remember him he would tell individual coaches about, they would ask how he does, because he was a real pioneer in the passing game. And I remember he coached all-star games, and when he would sort of hold informal seminars on how he was doing what he was doing. And, of course, they've changed quite a bit through the years, but that stadium there, but I remember one of the comments, someone said, well, you're playing with Lavelle Edwards. And the guy said, that's my wife's name. But that was his name, and he was a good coach. And in 1984, they won the national championship. And I remember Barry Switzer afterwards, after Oklahoma lost to number 4 Washington, he said he was going to vote for Washington for number 1 because they played a tougher schedule. And you may have seen the story this week about Robbie Bosco, talking about how they knew there was just this narrow path. They had to go undefeated and hope other things shook out. And I think if Oklahoma had won the bowl game, they probably would have been number 1 that year.
Yeah, they opened that season unranked, and a win at third-ranked Pitt got them into the top 25 for the rest of the season. And by the end of the year, they beat Michigan in the Holiday Bowl. You imagine that? I mean, I know that we chose national champions in a much different way then than we do now.
Yes.
But the national champion played in the Holiday Bowl in 1984. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and something like 11 days before some of the other big games, so they had that record out there, and it's sustained for their national championship. So this game, I think, I have thought all year, even before anything else, Phil, was a kind of a fulcrum game. It was going to be a trap game. Now it's different. The Razorbacks have lost 3 in a row like they did last year. And I talked to a Razorback enthusiast last night who thinks Arkansas can still win 5 of the last 6, maybe losing to Ole Miss or something. But I think every game is going to be a dogfight or a hogfight, especially this one. And the other day, Wally Hall wrote that Arkansas was a 2.5-point favorite, and by nightfall 2.5-point underdog. And by nightfall, they were a 1.5-point favorite because of the announcement that KJ is going to play. So, but this is where coaches earn their money. When you don't have all your players, you got to kind of figure it out on the fly and cover some situations you weren't expecting. So, to me, it's which coaching staff can, because I don't know how much their quarterback is hurt or not, but he's pretty good.
Well, look, I mean, Arkansas never really found their footing against Mississippi State, and I think that was from the start of the game until the very end. And I mean, it's not to bring back bad memories or anything, and this is not the reason Arkansas struggled under Chad Morris, but you never knew who your quarterback was on a week-by-week basis. I mean, you could look to the Alabama game and said it took some time for them to get some footing in the ground. In the third quarter they did, and KJ played great. The fourth quarter, went totally differently, and they couldn't stop long runs. That wasn't necessarily KJ's fault. But when you get not just the starting quarterback back, but your guy, the guy that everybody looks to, and guys on both sides of the ball talk about this. Getting him back just hopefully steadies, I won't say everything, because you still know on the defensive side there's so many injuries. We still don't know what the secondary is going to look like, depending on injuries for Slusher and for the two Johnsons, Kyrie and Jaden. But like Malik had some moments. But they were just moments, fleeting moments. We saw that talent, but we also saw a little bit of a roller coaster, I think, from Malik.
Yeah, I mean, we saw
back is huge. It's the most important thing that can happen.
I agree. I mean, we saw, despite all the good things Hornsby did, he did have 2 interceptions out of 17 throws. But I think they can maybe have a package again for him and spring him in there. Maybe do certain things, even with K. Who knows how the game will go, but. I think it's going to be quite interesting. And the other interesting thing about it is the 4,500-foot altitude. And people have gone out there before and talked about it. Remember, Eddie Sutton one time took his basketball team and lost to a sort of ordinary BYU team out there and talked about, hey, you need to go out there 2 days early to adjust and all this kind of stuff. So they'll be dealing with that also.
Well, it sounds like they're going to be drinking a ton of water. And maybe that'll help with all of that, because they're only going the day ahead of the game. I'm not even sure if the team's going to be spending, just a little more than 24 hours out there in Utah. But I mean, you don't want to go into the bye week with a 4-game losing streak. That's not a way to spend a week off trying to figure out how you're going to turn things around again and basically make it a full month of losing and then another week to think about it. Like, people ask about the team's mindset. I think the mindset coming into this week is win. Pretty please find a way to do it, because we don't want to have a 4th in a row going into the bye.
Yeah, that's right. Just quickly, Phil, you'll probably cover this at some point, but the red-white game is going to be interesting on Sunday. And I noticed today that Nick Smith is like a top 5 projected pick. Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, Trevon Brazile, and Ricky Council, all these guys with professional potential. If fans haven't seen this team, they're gonna really enjoy the show, I think, on Sunday afternoon. Not that we're giving up on football season or anything. During the Chad Morris years, some of the Bielema years, is like basketball started earlier and earlier. But they are going to be out there they're going to be there on Sunday playing.
Well, I worry a little, and I know fans are going to have to be there in order to see it, because we saw yesterday that they're not able to do a telecast. I think there's some sort of internet outage going on campus, but it was funny, like all the hype about football in the month leading into the start of the season. Of course, the hype lasted longer because you started 3-0, but that was when the basketball team took their European trip. And I mean, they didn't really treat it like this, but it was almost like, hey, all this hype about football, don't forget about us. We actually are one of the most hyped teams in the country. And going into the bye week to have the red-white game right there at the start of the bye week is sort of like, yeah, hey, we're coming up too.
With 29 out of 30 NBA teams there to see their pro day, and the only one that didn't, the Timberwolves, is because they don't have a draft pick next year. So Eric doesn't miss a trick, man. They did studies on what all to do and how to show everybody during that, so he doesn't miss much.
It seems Muss has been to like all other 49 states, visiting the pro teams and college teams, visiting with coach. He's been everywhere, man, picking up what he can from whomever that he respects. It's not just talking to Johnny on the street or whatever, but I mean, he's there with Brandon Staley in Los Angeles. He's visiting the Chiefs and Andy Reid. I mean, we know Muss is everywhere on social media, but there's a purpose to it. He's really going to try to learn things to transpose what other teams are doing to see if it works with his team.
Yeah, it's not true that he sold road maps to Marco Polo. He's not. And the funny thing is, he looks about 20 years younger than he actually is. Maybe all this constant activity. Maybe that's the key.
Well, he definitely has that kind of energy, no doubt about that. Hopefully we can all look 20 years younger than we really are if we keep that sort of energy alive.
Football is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.